This is 𝗨𝗵 Now with John and 𝗬𝗵𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗁.
Welcome to the program today. I'm really glad that you're here with us. We're going to be talking to somebody who's been on the program before recently, and he's not only a medical missionary, but he's a flying medical missionary. The flying doctor, Dr. Mark Turnbull. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark is a doctor out on the island of 𝗬𝗏 in Vanuatu, and he is the only doctor there, and he flies the plane to get from patient to patient, from place to place.
Yeah, the only doctor in the
take people
province.
around. Yeah.
Of course, there are many doctors in the country, but
Yes.
they are further south. Yeah.
What size area do you cover?
There's 15 different islands in 𝗘𝗺𝗶𝘁𝗀𝗘 province. It's the most remote area in Vanuatu, and it's up towards the north, towards Solomon Islands.
And so you've got a big territory, and you're the only person who goes and services.
Well, there are nurse practitioners and there are nurses, so it's not as if there's no medical personnel, but as far as medical doctors, I'm the only one. In the province. Yeah.
Big area, big responsibility, but thank you for what you do. John.
You've got a text, it's found in Acts chapter 1, verses 7 and 8, and if you have your Bibles and you want to look with me as I read, the Bible says, "And he said unto them, It is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power. But ye shall receive power after that the Holy Ghost is come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and to the uttermost parts of the earth." Now, I just want to say, Mark, you're in one of the uttermost parts of the earth, aren't you? Really, in reality, you are.
Yeah, the reason that text is becoming very meaningful to us is not so much that we're thinking of ourselves as being in one of the uttermost parts of the earth, which is true, but more so because of what's happening to our ministry. We started small, and now the influence of this ministry is spreading out and going beyond where we started, and starting to influence people far away from us. So
The othermost parts of the earth, at the other end.
Yeah, that's right.
So you got people coming from all over the world.
Yeah, it's
virtually.
an amazing thing. We had this thought that when we went to Vanuatu that we'd be going to the middle of nowhere, nobody would ever see us again. But when we got there, that's how it felt, and there wasn't a lot of people coming there. But over time, that particular island has become, it's quite well known for people who want to see volcanoes, because there's an active volcano there. There's a beautiful waterfall. There's a big lake surrounding the volcano. And so tourists and other people on yachts, there's a lot of people crossing the Pacific in yachts. Europeans, Americans, Canadians, people from all over the world traveling across the Pacific in yachts. And they often stop in at different islands in Vanuatu, and quite a few of them seem to come to 𝗬𝗏. So in the last couple of months, we've had people from Brazil, Italy, Swiss French people, Swiss Germans, Belgians, and if we consider all the different nationalities that have come to this island where we live, in the middle of nowhere, it's been amazing. We've had people from every continent, every place.
You could have gone to many other places as a doctor, couldn't you? But what made you choose that particular part?
Well, we chose to go to to Vanuatu, because it's the nearest and the neatest. And if we could have a look at the first slide there, that's a photo showing 𝗬𝗏 Island, which is up there in northern Vanuatu. It's part of the island, the Banks Group, which is part of the province of islands called 𝗘𝗺𝗶 province. It's an isolated place. This is the aircraft that we were donated. We live in the hangar that's shown on the screen there. And if we go to the next slide, we can see a better picture of that hangar.
Not everybody sleeps in an aeroplane.
Yeah, we have the plane is in the garage underneath the place, and that plane flies into bush airstrips around the province. On the next slide, we can see the medical work that we've been involved in, because it's a medical aviation project, and we meet the needs of hundreds of different patients who come from all over the province. There's been lots of surgical cases and other cases, deliveries, etc. And the next one shows the school that we're also involved in. So this is kind of giving us, this is how God has led us to help with the needs of these people. We started out very simple, but it's now growing into something much bigger than us. There's other people involved. There's a lot of different ministries happening, and it's really exciting. There's one more slide there showing the church, the baptism. Recently we had the biggest baptism that's ever taken place in the province. 28 people were baptized just recently, and it's just wonderful to see the Lord's work growing from a very small beginning and starting to accelerate as time goes on.
I like the pictures. They're very picturesque. The mountain, the countryside is
Yeah,
spectacular.
the
The
water
water
looks
looks so inviting.
it's got a lot of beauty, and flying around the islands I often see beautiful sunsets, and it's a privilege in a lot of ways to be working there.
And your wife and your daughter was involved with you out there, is that right?
Yeah, and we've also adopted 2 children, so we are well and truly integrated with the people. We've become citizens also of Vanuatu. We're dual citizens, Australian and Vanuatu.
Very good.
Yeah, so what's been so amazing is to go there and start from something very small and to see it slowly expanding and involving, impacting people. But what's been really surprising to me recently is the fact that these people are coming from overseas. That is not what I was expecting. In fact, I've been partly irritated at times because I'm busy treating local people, and sometimes people come and they want to see me, and that they know who I am. I don't know how they know. I guess word spreading, and people know about this medical aviation project. So
maybe they've seen you on Layman Ministries programs or website or something.
Well, there's actually been, if we can see the next slide, there's just shows there have been 3 television programs that have been, we're part of Layman Ministries, which is a project. Jeff Rich, a ministry based in Idaho, USA. And he's the director of 7 different projects around the world. One of them is ours. And if we could see the slide of the, showing the television ministries that have been, come to televise the project, secular television programs, including a British channel, 2 French channels. They came and made programs that have been on international television. This is something we were not expecting to happen. And the next slide, I want us to look at there's a gentleman there who came to assist us recently. He doesn't go to church, and here he is in the church with all the students, praying and worshiping with us. So it's just, it's really starting to, a pattern is starting to happen. We're starting to see people coming to us from other countries. And some of these people are people that are not necessarily religious, not necessarily of the same faith as we are, people who are not really interested so much in the religious aspect of it, but the thing that's attracting them is the fact that we're helping other people. And so, for example, we had this Italian guy come recently on a yacht. He's also a pilot, quite a good pilot, and also been involved in building aircraft and stuff. And he wanted to help me with giving me some tools for the plane, and also assisting with one of my antennas. That's his speciality. And I was just so amazed at how persistent he was to help me. Like, these people are coming from all over the world, and here I am, not really appreciating them, maybe thinking of them as someone that's getting in the way of what I'm doing because I'm treating patients. And these people are actually, the Lord's starting to tell me that I need to realize that, God, Jesus said, "You shall be witnesses unto me in Jerusalem," that's the beginning place, "and all Judea, and then Samaria," people a little bit further away, "and then to the uttermost parts of the earth." So we've got to realize that people have needs, and these people come from anywhere.
This man had a need to help.
He had a need to be needed, and that's what I feel is starting to come clear in my mind now, is that, a lot of people, like in Vanuatu where we are, the people are very needy in terms of their educational needs, medical needs, etc. So it's easy to meet those needs. We just basically get involved in health ministry and teaching, started the school, started the medical work, and we're meeting those needs, and it's a powerful way to interact with people. But when it comes to people from wealthy countries, we have educational opportunities that are way beyond what anything that we can provide. Medical facilities that are way beyond anything I can do. What I do in 𝗬𝗪 is very simple, but a person coming from overseas doesn't really need that. But what they do need is they need to be needed. And that's something I hadn't realized before. But we've started interacting with people who are willing to help. For example, recently a group in Queensland who are a Rotary group who are not, they're not coming from a religious standpoint at all.
They do a good work though, Mark.
They're good people. And these people, some of them are skeptical of religion because they kind of think of religious people as people who talk and don't do anything.
And who want your money.
They want your money and they want to preach at you, and they're not really interested in people's lives. And so, but when we interact with them in getting help, sort of connect with them to do something that's actually helping people in Vanuatu, all of a sudden we're now crossing a boundary. Some of these people are praying with us. Some of these people are traveling to us, come to church with us. Some of these people are acting as if they're part of the team. They're on the team. You know, this is something that's really been amazing to me, to realize that people have a basic need, and that is the need to be needed. And mission is the answer, is the solution to that. When we get people involved in mission, we're actually helping them to satisfy that need.
Involvement, isn't it? We talk about total
member involvement works in the church. It's powerful for the church. But what about people in the world, people who have no church, people who have no interest in God? They still have a need to be needed. And by tapping into that need, we're actually rubbing shoulders with them, we're praying with them. Some of these people are responding to the Holy Spirit's prompting.
I think actions speak louder than words, don't they?
Yeah.
And when they see, you know, things happening, I mean, what you've done out there, I think you said you've been out there 14 years.
Yeah.
And in that 14 years, people have come to know you and your wife and your daughter and the work you're doing out there. And it's going, it is spreading. So people are saying, hey, look, there are people actually out there. You openly profess you're a Christian like I do. And so they can see, hey, these people are really doing something. And that's very encouraging, Mark.
There's a song from 𝗬𝗵𝘁𝗀𝗀, and it says, love me. That's all I ask of you. That is the basic human need. I remember hearing about something that was done in Russia or somewhere where they did an experiment with babies, and they took some babies and they really nurtured them, and they had just poured love on them, and then others, they kept them isolated and they only had human contact at the time that they were being fed and things. Those children did not thrive, they did not survive, whereas the others did, because they were being shown that they were needed and they were loved. And when we show people love and that they are needed, that they are appreciated, people thrive. And so love me, that's all I ask of you. That's part of fulfilling that need to be needed.
Yeah, one of the hardest things for a proud atheist heart is to be loved by someone because they have a need. It's hard for some people to accept that kind of love, but when you involve them, it's kind of like you get on their side, beside them, and you do something to help somebody else. The focus is no longer on them. It's a little bit like people when we found this in Vanuatu, people who are learning to do talks in public, they find it hard, but if you give them a screen that they can stand next to, slideshow, you know, they click the PowerPoint slides, all of a sudden the attention comes off them and they can do it. The same thing happens with an atheist who doesn't really want to confront God, doesn't want to pray, doesn't want to be involved in anything religious. But if you get alongside him and you get his hands dirty in the work with you, helping somebody who's greatly in need, all of a sudden you're rubbing shoulders with this person and they seem to be ready to pray before long. You know, they actually start opening up to spiritual things. So I think involving other people is a powerful way of reaching people. And this is something I never thought of. I never thought that going to Vanuatu, I'd actually be made more capable of helping people in Vanuatu, in Australia, than if I'd stayed here, in a sense.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But another thing that's happening is this, because there's been a shift in the culture in Vanuatu. Vanuatu is changing now. We are getting different types of diseases popping up. In the past, it was all infectious stuff, and we still have that. You know, things that basically
Malaria
they need
and
acute care, you know, people who have cerebral infections, etc.
It's a very, the country is very rich. You can grow very well out there, can't you?
The soil is the richest in the world. So
well,
people
you've got
basically
volcanic
healthy.
organic.
We got volcanic organic soil. The food is delicious. It tastes different because it's so rich.
So you would think there would be less diseases. Well, you would assume that if you had good food and
they do have less diseases
soil.
in some respects, and because they live on such a simple diet, incredibly simple, some of the diseases are just absent. That is in the remote areas. Most of the infections and problems they have is to do with infections or child delivery issues or hernias from carrying copper or something like that. But what's happening is in the towns, there's only 2 towns in Vanuatu, that's 𝗬𝗏𝗀𝗀 and Port Vila. Those 2 towns are breeding a different kind of person. What's happening is a lot of overseas food, especially Southeast Asia food that's coming in. It's all in cans, it's all processed, it's all unhealthy. So a lot of these people are starting to get all these same illnesses that we're getting in Western society. For example, well, metabolic syndromes problems, hypertension, high cholesterol and triglycerides, obesity, especially the abdominal fat, and the pre-diabetes. So this is hitting Vanuatu big time. And so we're getting a shift. So we're actually having to cater for two completely different populations within Vanuatu. When we first got there, that we didn't have this so much. But there's a big shift coming in, and because these change in lifestyle that's happening there, we're starting to focus more on the Western type illnesses.
And it's coming into the smaller areas, is it?
It's coming into the remote areas, but like we can see the barrier still. But as time goes on, you know, it's shifting and it's starting to invade everywhere. This Western type, you know, Western culture, all the videos, all the clothes, all the food products, everything that's coming from Western culture is starting to flood into even the remote areas. So because of this, we're starting to shift our mindset. We still have to do acute care and look after deliveries, etc. But we're starting to look towards a new way of working with the sick. And we have to start thinking seriously about wellness. And because of that, we're seeing that's coinciding with an awareness, an increasing awareness that God's helping us to touch lives from every corner of the earth, including even people from Australia, Europe, USA, whatever. And as a result of that, combine those 2 thoughts, we've come up with this idea we need to start a wellness center. We have people coming from all over the world to see the waterfall, the active volcano on our island. It's a beautiful tropical place. People want to come for traveling purposes. And we also have NGOs, we have yachties, we have different people coming for different reasons. But now we're thinking, why don't we capitalize on this? Why don't we start a wellness center? That's kind of like the next step for us, because that will be addressing the needs of the people who are starting to get more Western illnesses within Vanuatu, but also it's helping us to reach people from overseas as well.
Because lifestyle sicknesses or diseases can be changed and altered. And you're saying a wellness centre is a way of teaching people how to learn not to get those diseases that you're talking about.
It's all about meeting people's needs. And when you get to the bottom of it, a wellness centre is meeting a different need. It's meeting the needs of those who don't understand why they're getting these diseases. Why are we getting, you know, pre-diabetes? Why people are getting their feet cut off? I'm referring patients, and these infections are just they're so powerful, you know, especially in a hot environment.
It wouldn't be nice having to amputate something.
Yeah, we pray a lot about this because, you know, it's so devastating to see someone in their 40s going off to surgery and they come back and there's a leg missing. It's devastating. You know, it completely devastates the rest of their life.
And it could have been avoided. That's what you want to do in your wellness centre, to teach people how to avoid getting to that stage. Yeah,
we can help people to get, and some of the remedies that we're starting to use now are also giving us hope that we can tackle some of the worst cases in the province. So I feel like the Lord is really leading in this, and I really look forward to getting into this, because a wellness centre is going to meet the needs of people from anywhere. We have so many people now who are suffering from lifestyle illnesses.
And there's another point that you'd spoken to us about before this, and that is that you have the people who are from the poor areas, and they're doing their farming, they're using the volcanic soil, and they're raising food for themselves. Not a great variety, but they're eating that sort of food. And then you've got the ones who are now purchasing the pre-canned and the packaged, processed food.
That's right.
And the ones who are having the packaged food, not only are they getting sick from these lifestyle diseases that we have in Australia and other parts of the world, they take a long time to heal. Whereas those who are living the more simple life with the
They bounce
homegrown
back
food,
pretty quickly.
Yeah, you were saying that they heal quickly.
We have a lot of very rapid recovery, post-surgical cases recovering very rapidly. The reason is, like we can only say that it's got to do with lifestyle. Because these people are basically living healthy lives, they're outdoors, they're very active, they're eating mostly vegetables and root vegetables and leaf vegetables. Those and coconut. Coconut is very common, which is really amazing, because a lot of people sort of think of coconut as a bad oil, but in actual fact, we're finding that coconut is just super healthy. And these people who are living on coconut, some of them are quite fat, but they don't get heart attacks. We don't have heart attacks. Heart attacks come from the city. They come from the people who are living on Western diets. People who are living on coconut,
they don't get those Western style diseases.
Don't get Western style diseases. Western style diseases are unique in Vanuatu in that they are restricted to the people who are living there on the food that they purchase. Whereas the people who grow their own food, they're in a totally different category.
And you are actually, it's wonderful that you are there as a medical doctor witnessing this firsthand, witnessing this transition after 14 years of being there. You're seeing this change from the basic, simple food to the more Western style packaged products, and the change in health.
It's kind of like a golden moment or a window in time in which it's so easy to observe the difference between the healthful versus the non-healthful, because there's such a dramatic difference. The cheap food that's processed food that's been brought into the country is probably some of the worst that you could get, and yet the food that's on the islands, that they grow, is probably the most healthy you can get.
Especially
so it's
with that
very
soil.
extreme, very, very extreme. And people who go from one to the other, because everybody who's on the island, when they get to town, they actually want to go onto this processed food because they think that's going up in life. That's an advantage. That's progress. Now I can eat white rice and tinned fish instead of eating, sweet potato and pumpkin and other root vegetables and bananas. And so they go off this very primitive diet. They go onto a very sort of commercial diet. It's cheap rubbish. There's no health foods there. It's all commercial products. It's very poor quality because it's been the business people over there tend to get very cheap quality stuff.
Well, the other point is too, Mark, they don't have a lot of money to spend, so you've got to be able to buy something cheap.
The people, because they're poor, they purchase, the people who are selling the stuff, they're selling a lot of junk food. And that food brings out the worst very quickly. So we've got people who are very healthy, and then we've got people who are very unhealthy, all living in the same space, and some of them interchanging. So they'll go to town, they get work in town, they get unhealthy, they come back, they get healthy again. So the contrast is very dramatic. And I don't think this contrast is going to stay for very long. This is a window in time, and it's an incredible opportunity to observe this. And particularly because I live in the remote area, I see it more so than the other doctors who are working in the towns, because they're basically working mostly with the more
the ones infected with all the...
Yeah, well, it's a sort of mixed population, whereas where I am, there's two
very
drastically different patients. When I get a patient coming from the town, I usually say, oh, what I'm going to do with this one, you know, because it's so much harder to deal with them. I get great results because I got the right patients in the first place. You know, if somebody comes for a hernia operation, generally speaking, they're very healthy, they're strong people. These guys are 𝗧𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀, and they have very strong physiques, they're eating very natural products, they're very muscular guys. They get this ruptured hernia because they're overexerting themselves. I do surgery on them, and in a few short moments they're in rapid recovery because they're so healthy, you know, basically so healthy. So I have that advantage of having very good
You get someone
patients.
from the town or from eating town food, and they take ages to heal.
They have more complications. They're very sensitive to a lot of things can go wrong. Whereas the people who are healthy, they've got the edge, you know, and so they recover rapidly. And seeing the difference between the two is so amazing for me.
You know what I find with this, Mark, is that you are in such a fortunate position to see this, because usually we only hear about it through, you know, a doctor says, oh, well, this is the best diet and you shouldn't eat these things, but you're actually seeing it happen. Most doctors have just read about it and then regurgitate what they've read about.
Not only that, because I'm sort of stepping back in time in a sense to work with these people. I've also got the advantage of coming to Australia and picking up some of these health products that now, you know, there's a lot of research going into phytochemicals and natural products that have powerful healing properties that before we weren't quite clear on them. And so now it gives me an opportunity to use some of these things, some natural anti-inflammatories, some natural antibiotics to combine with the treatments, you know, the regular treatments that I've been doing for 14 years. Because of my interest in lifestyle medicine, I'm starting to look at, well, how can we use more natural approaches for even the infectious diseases? But as we head towards a wellness centre, I think we're going to get pretty busy with these wellness cases, you know, lifestyle diseases, metabolic syndrome, hypertension, diabetes or pre-diabetes, high cholesterol, obesity, abdominal obesity. Those are the kind of sicknesses that we're sort of shifting towards. But it's hard to do this because we've got so many patients from every corner, you know. Yeah.
So what are some of, you mentioned there are things that you actually purchase when you're back in Australia to take back.
Well,
what are the sort of things that you're finding are helping in your area and that could even help, well, they're here in this country, they should be able to help us too.
So there's some advantages, a lot of disadvantages working in a remote area doing medical work. One would be diagnostics is very difficult. You know, it's meant that I've had to learn how to use an ultrasound. I think most doctors don't know how to use an ultrasound, or some of them do, but there's very few doctors who do ultrasounds on a regular basis. I use ultrasound all the time because I have to. I'm left to my own resources in that respect, but blood tests are very difficult. Relying on clinical judgment, you get very good at it. Well, you get more acute. You think of it more intensely because you're doing it all the time.
And you wouldn't have the opportunity to get pathology done?
No, well, some of the doctors that have come there as volunteers, they sort of, in a couple of days, they realise, I haven't got any blood tests to back me up. You know, a lot of medical doctors now, the first thing they do, they don't examine very well, they don't take good histories, they go straight for these very expensive tests, pathology, radiology, x-rays, CT scans, MRIs, blood tests galore, and the skill involved in taking a good history and examining people is kind of dropping off, sorry to say. But that's an advantage. Another advantage that I have being there is working with patients which are very open to using anything. They just want to get better.
I think we'll all be like that, right?
That's right. Now, and another advantage is the need to actually convey information to a remote location and tell them how to deal with things with nothing except the basics. So for give an example, an asthma attack on a remote island, somebody calls me, they're dying from asthma. What do I do for my uncle? He's dying from asthma. I can't get there, it's the middle of the night, or there's no nursing staff on the island, or whatever. What do I do?
They don't have the
they don't have a puffer,
they
don't have anything. What am I going to do? Well, I found that water is actually very, very important in hydration is super important in asthma. Asthma attacks, they are often precipitated by a dehydrated state, or much exacerbated by that. And because, you know, every asthma patient knows that one of the biggest obstacles to recovery is this feeling that your chest is full of mucus, which it is. And one of the best ways to address that is to hydrate a person very...
So drink lots of water.
Yeah, drink a lot of water. Drink a lot of water, like over drink. It's not, we're not talking about drinking to satisfy thirst. We're talking about drinking in a therapeutic way to actually hydrate the body so much that the body's starting to look for different ways of getting rid of that water. And one of the places it's going to put that water is into the chest, and it will mix with that sputum. And the first thing that they do when you give them lots of water is they start coughing, because the sputum is starting to come up. And you know, this works with, even you can see this with IV treatment for asthma. When somebody's got an acute asthma attack, often, you know, we've got to give them oxygen, we've got to give them steroids, and we've got to give them IV fluids. And the IV fluid needs to hydrate them. And that's why it's so important to use the right IV fluids. But if you do use the right IV fluids, you'll see in a very short time, the hydration alone. I know, because I had this when I've had limited medications. Just the IV fluids alone is enough to hydrate the patient and save their life.
It's not a saline solution?
Not a saline solution. No, I use 4% dextrose or 5% dextrose, because that is going to lead to hydration. It's going to lead to fluid going into the chest and breaking up all this mucus. So that's just an example of how, you know, being in a difficult situation, a disadvantaged situation in terms of technology and you know, facilities and personnel, can actually lead you to make discoveries that are beneficial and profoundly beneficial. You know, I found that water is actually the most important ingredient in treating asthma.
And so people anywhere can do that?
Yeah.
They don't just have to be where you are. If they if they start to feel an asthma attack come on, that's the best time to hydrate, isn't it?
The steroid treatments are very, very helpful, because they do decrease inflammation. But if you don't have access to steroid, then water is your best bet. You know, oxygen obviously is going to help. Oxygen, simple treatment really. It's very fundamental, and it's very important to understand this when you're treating asthma.
Get plenty of water.
Yeah.
So basically your skills are now looking at natural remedies, because that's what's available to you. You have to go down that line more and more. We work with normal medications, and you know, in case of, for example, like malaria, the mainline treatment for malaria is artesunate, and it's powerful. It's actually a herbal-based product anyway, and that is a powerful way of treating asthma. Malaria. So is there a lot of malaria out in where you are, Mark?
There's actually been a drop-off in the amount of malaria cases, but however, it can still kill a visitor, particularly visitors, because the locals have some immunity to it. So there's 𝗨𝗃, which is a more sort of long-term chronic malaria, which doesn't kill you, but it's very debilitating. And then there's the 𝗨𝗪𝘃 malaria, which is very acute, and that can kill you. You can get cerebral malaria with that. So knowing how to treat those things is important, and using medications is definitely essential. However, what's been really amazing to us is trying to use some of the natural antibiotics, like some of the essential oils. They're very complementary. They're very helpful when you're dealing with people in remote locations. They're very open to using those kind of remedies, and combining them with good judgment in knowing what to use at the right time has been so encouraging to me. You know, I'm starting to look for worst cases. I'm looking for bad cases. We just had a recent case, hepatitis case, who
A or B?
Hepatitis B. I've just been amazed at how he's recovering using some of these things, and a product called 𝗪𝗶𝘁𝗀𝗀, which is well known to be protective to the liver. So I think the Lord's blessing, and I want to get more involved in lifestyle treatments and helping people, even from overseas. If God sends them, we want to see them.
Now you use capsules or oil, oregano oil.
Oregano
What
oil
do you use that for?
It's something I'm looking into, but it's just it's a really broad spectrum. It has broad spectrum antibiotic, antifungal, antiviral properties. I think some of the documentation on it is not there yet. There's a lot of investigation going on to this, but some of the medical research is looking like it's going to be coupled with, maybe not just this one, but other essential oils are going to be coupled with antibiotics in the future. So when you go to your GP in the future, you're probably going to be getting something like amoxicillin and oregano mixed. That's the way we're heading in the future for antibiotics.
Is that to try and help people overcome these things that are resistant now to antibiotics? Do you think that things like...
Well, I personally think that some of these natural antibiotics is just very powerful and they're very effective. So when you're treating people, sometimes I've used them, and I've used them in combination with antibiotics, and to be honest, I'm not sure exactly what's the best combination yet, but to me it's very promising, and I just believe that God's promised that He's got remedies. One of the thought that came to me recently was that Jesus, when He was in villages, He would go through a village, and sometimes when He had finished in that village, there were no more sick people.
Exactly.
He had a comprehensive plan for everybody, and I think that's what God wants us to do. He wants us to develop approaches that actually meet everybody's needs. So people who have infectious diseases, God has a plan for them. But people who have Western type diseases, like metabolic syndrome, hypertension, high cholesterol, all of these things, God's got a solution for those as well. So we need to pray for plans that will help everybody.
So what do you do for diabetes? I mean, that's lifestyle change only?
Diabetes is there's two different.
Yes.
There's
Take us through the difference between them.
It's kind of strange how these two diseases have the same name, diabetes. In actual fact, type 1 diabetes is a completely different animal. It is very, very different. They don't deserve to have the same name, and the confusion between those two diseases causes a lot of angst. It causes a lot of confusion, especially people who are not versed in the sort of physiology behind them. They're two totally different diseases.
What's the difference?
Well, the similarity is to do with sugar, but the type 1 is an insulin deficient person, somebody who's deficient in insulin. The type 2 is an insulin resistant person. And that difference is actually very huge, because in a person who's got insulin deficiency, they need insulin. In a person who's got an insulin resistance, they need to become less resistant. The way that we deal with that is quite simple. We change the lifestyle. The change in lifestyle gets rid of that resistance. The resistance is basically a result of insulin knocking on the door of the fat cells saying, can you let some sugar in? Can you let some sugar in? And if somebody knocked on your door 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, for 2 decades, it would get to the point where you say, that's enough, I don't want to hear you knocking on my door anymore. And that's what happens. The fat cell says, I don't want to listen to you anymore. And so it now becomes resistant to the insulin. And so what you do, all you do is you stop knocking on the door. The way to do that is fasting. Fasting is a cure for type 2 diabetes. But it's more than fasting, it's a whole lifestyle change, and it's got to do with changing when you eat, changing what you eat, changing how much you eat, and combining that with all the 8 laws of health, exercise, etc.
So it becomes very, for me, who is someone who's a lay person, I'm beginning to understand what you put in here really does affect your health. So you can't be, careless. You can't just take for granted, well, I'll have this and this and this and I'm going to be okay, because it'll eventually catch up with you.
Type 2 diabetes is basically a disease caused by too much stuff going in this little spot here. Too frequently, in too large quantities, that's what it is. And so if you want to overcome that, well, you have to stop it going in. It's as simple as that. You need to control yourself, control your diet, and people are getting sicker, and it's the type of food as well. We just live on such unhealthy foods.
So
well, is it
come
food?
to Vanuatu.
Is it
come
really
to the Wellness
food?
Centre.
That's the question.
Yeah, it's not really food. Yeah, once you've tasted a tomato or a banana or a pawpaw grown on 𝗬𝗏 Island on organic volcanic soil, you will know the difference.
I'm coming. Just a quick thought. You've been out there 14 years. You've said this new food that's coming in, the commercial type food, that's suddenly caused a huge problem with diabetes too, right?
Yeah.
So is that one of the major, well, I'm going to use the word, the major killer, or it's the biggest concern out there in the islands at the moment? Because we've heard things about that.
It causes amputations too.
We, the church has got a program called the 𝗬𝗵𝗍𝗀𝗀 project, which is to help with that, and it is a serious problem, but it's not. It's actually metabolic syndrome, which is the cluster of it's a syndrome of 4, or sometimes they say 5. So we're talking about pre-diabetes, on the way to full-blown type 2 diabetes, on the way to full-blown hypertension. So people who are sort of pre-hypertensive or getting into hypertension, that's part of the cluster. People who are obese, particularly the abdominal obesity, in other words, the apple shape rather than the pear-shaped obesity, which is around the belly. Okay, that kind of obesity or fat, being overweight, is a part of the cluster as well. And then the last one is cholesterol and triglycerides, which are often come from the same product. Cholesterol, as most people don't know this, cholesterol is actually an animal product. It has to come from animals because it's the word 𝗀𝗺 it means liver. So the animal products can contain cholesterol. There is no cholesterol in a plant product because plants haven't got a livers. So cholesterol, high cholesterol, especially the HDL, the LDL cholesterol, and also the oxidized cholesterol, particularly oxidized cholesterol, oxidized LDL. That's the cholesterol that's been turned bad by cooking, etc. Usually from an animal product. Well, only from an animal product. That's exogenous cholesterol, the cholesterol we take into our cells. That is the source of all this atherosclerosis. Then the triglycerides, which is all fats and oils in general floating in your bloodstream. So that is the fourth part of the cluster. There's 4 different things happening, and generally speaking, everybody's got all of them together. It's very rare to find them on their own, but even somebody who has one of those things is heading in that direction in all of them, usually.
You mentioned coconut oil before, coconut oil. So that doesn't cause the same problems.
Yeah, a lot of people sort of give coconut a bad press because it's been, in the past.
Saturated oil.
People talk about saturated fats. But the saturated fats that cause problems are the hydrogenated fats in margarines, and they are the ones that cause issues because of the processing that they've been through. However, the coconut
animal fat.
Animal fats. They also have saturated fats, but it's the cholesterol in those fats that's the issue. The cholesterol and all those fats and triglycerides, etc. But what we need to realize is that if you're living on a plant-based diet and you're eating coconut, the coconut is unlikely to be an issue. The reason I know this is because I have a lot of people who I work with all the time who are fat, who have been eating a lot of coconut. That's their main food source, and they don't get heart attacks. They don't get angina. They don't get atherosclerosis.
They don't get diabetes.
They don't get atherosclerotic strokes, thromboembolic strokes. We have hypertensive strokes in Vanuatu. We don't have the ones that are caused by all these fat products.
Do they heat their oil? Use it for cooking?
They do, and that's one of the things about coconut oil is much more stable than other vegetable oils. Because it's saturated, it doesn't actually change from a cis to a trans fatty acid. So a coconut oil, a saturated fat is actually more stable to cook with. So coconut oil is actually, it's a really good oil, and there's a lot of properties. You know, coconuts they call it the tree of life in the Pacific. It is the tree.
Every part of it is used, and
it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Can I know time's running by, and I'm just thinking, you know, I would like to share with our viewers the importance of everybody getting involved in mission. We've reaped so many benefits and rewards from being involved in mission. And I want to encourage each one of us to enter the mind of a missionary. And what I want to just highlight is what I'm calling ABCD. A, ask God, or ask the question, who is it that I'm on this planet for? Who is it that God wants me to reach? Identify them and pray for them. B, be like Jesus. Use the Jesus method. He mingled with others. He went and he mingled with those with others as one who desired their good. He sympathized with them.
Needs were.
He ministered to their needs. He won their confidence, and then he said, "Come, follow me." And so that is the whole idea behind this: is to be like Jesus. Use His method. C, become a channel. Become a channel of God's grace. Become a channel between those who have and those who don't have. And when we do that, we're going to find ourselves value adding the people that we are reaching. We're putting a value on them, and other people are starting to appreciate that value, and they're getting involved. And they themselves, the people who are helping, are now meeting the need to be needed. And because of that, a snowball effect takes place, and these people start sticking to each other, and it sucks other people into it, and this whole idea of mission becomes a blessing to so many other people.
That's like what you were talking about before with people who have no actual faith in God.
Yeah.
You get them involved.
That's it.
That they can actually fulfill their need to be needed.
That's it.
By showing love and care to other people, and they end up just being pulled into that joyously.
That's right. Can I finish on the D? The D is the last one there, and that's to discover the power of God's promises. D for discover the power of God's promises. You know, there are certain conditions that we have to meet in order to satisfy the requirements to be able to claim those promises. But the requirements are very reasonable. They're not too hard. One of them is to do with finances, and is to do with tithing. And God wants us to prove Him and to prepare the tithe on any needs you may have. Prepare the tithe, get ready to pay a tithe on it, because God is preparing, while we're preparing the tithe, the angels are preparing the 9/10 to satisfy that need that we have. We have to find out all the conditions of all the promises, meet all of them. Make that your target in life. And then as you do that, as you get involved in mission, God is going to make you a channel of His grace, and you're going to become a blessing. You're going to find that you will satisfy your greatest need, which is to be needed. You need to be needed. We all need to be needed. And when we get involved in mission, mission satisfies that need. So I think that if I had the opportunity, I would tell the whole world that everyone, you need to be involved in mission. Are you involved in mission or not? Why don't we ask God to help us to get serious about this? This is where it's at. This is where it's at. It's helping me, it's helping my family, it's helping the people that we're reaching, and now it's starting to help people from other countries, and I'm starting to think, I've got to tell people about this. This is exciting.
We know that, and we can see that in you, Mark. You know, I keep thinking the concept that Jesus came to be a revealer of how to live this life. And it is the best way, because you do live a better and more meaningful life when you understand why you're here and what you're here for.
That's it.
And the Gospel Commission, Jesus Himself says, go ye into all the world and teach everyone what I've taught you. That's paraphrasing it. So basically, that's what you're doing. You're excited because God is using you to teach what He's taught, and in turn, what do you end up doing? You're helping people.
That's it.
In the locality where you are, in your sphere of influence.
That's it.
But that sphere can grow. And so I feel very privileged to be able to talk to you, because you wanted that sphere of influence to grow, and you're in a remote area, and they're going to come to you. So I think we need to just talk about this wellness centre just for a little moment, because this is God's plan for you.
Before you go there, I just want to make this comment, that the reason why I see, the reason why this is getting bigger, and what you're doing there, you're actually reaching out and touching lives
Yeah.
further afield in other
Yeah.
parts of the world is because when we are faithful to what God gives us to do, as we continue to do it with our whole heart to God's glory, He then extends our boundary.
Yeah.
And if we then go into that extended boundary, like you started off with the medical work, then you went into the school work, you're working with the church, now you're getting other people from further afield
Yeah.
that are being affected. Every time you go into that boundary that God extends and you do the work that He's asked you to do there, He will then extend your boundary again.
You know, we have been given an amazing lifestyle, an amazing message, and an amazing mission. And when we take hold of those things, it gives us the lifestyle, gives us wholeness. The message gives us hope and rest, because it's a message of rest in hope. That's the Sabbath, that's the Advent, right? But it's also a mission. We are not only called just to have a message and to have a lifestyle, but we're also called to have a mission. Because the mission is meaning. And without mission, there is no meaning. When we have mission, we have purpose, we have meaning, we have a focus, we have a reason to exist. Without the mission, we don't have any meaning.
That's right.
And our lifestyle and our message doesn't mean much. But if we have all three of them, we need to have a lifestyle, we need to have a message, and we need to have a mission. That encompasses everything.
I think too, Mark, you know, we're not just talking about living on this earth right now. It is part of it.
Yeah.
But the message that the Bible lives and God gave and Jesus gave is that you can have a life after this life.
Yeah.
And what we do in this life really determines what is going to happen to us in the long term.
Yeah.
So that's the plan of salvation that God has for you. He wants you to live with Him throughout eternity. By the way, there will be no sickness, no dying or crying in the new earth that God is going to take us to if we accept and believe Jesus and what He's done for you. It's a wonderful message.
Right now, we're going to go to our address roll. If you would like to contact us, and please do, we'd love to hear from our viewers and our listeners to how you react to the programs that we make. And this is the detail that you need to write down so you can do that.
If you would like to contact Dr. Mark and Naomi Turnbull and support their work in Vanuatu, you may contact them in the following ways. Their mailing address is PO Box 777, Killarney, Queensland 4373. That's Post Office Box 777, Killarney, Queensland 4373. Contact them via email on forhishope@gmail.com. That's the number 4, hishope, all one word, @gmail.com. Donate to them via their website. The address is www.forhishope.com/give. Contact them today.
Thank you very much. We hope you wrote those down and we're looking forward to hearing from you. But now, Mark, John mentioned before your wellness centre that you're planning. Just talk to us a little bit about what you're planning to do with that.
Things are coming together. We've been praying for a miracle. You know, when it came to the plane, we prayed for the plane, and God provided in a miraculous way. And it helps you when you know that God has provided in a miraculous way. It's not you. You know it's not you. It's God that did it. We've been praying for a miracle also for the Wellness Centre. Please, can you pray for us in that respect? But we're starting to see signs of a miracle. I won't say too much now because it's still just starting to happen.
But you've got a portion of land, right?
It looks like it's coming together. So we need to pray. We need to ask our world church to pray for us. And we believe that angels are involved in these things. And we're asking the angels to get involved. And when the angels do things, it becomes obvious later.
But it still takes a lot of planning on those who are taking the step forward in faith. I always remember the blessing is on the go.
That's it.
And so once you feel that God has led in a plan, then you've got to take the step.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know, I know I spoke to you earlier on about how these village people are going to be, you know, the people in the community are going to be able to come there. And you mentioned an interesting strategy, and I want you to share that.
Sorry, can you clarify that?
Oh, that's of those who come from another place.
Oh, yeah.
Helping support.
What we want to do
others.
is we want to make it possible for people to come and to receive treatment, to eat organic volcanic food, to see the active volcano, to see the beautiful waterfall, but at the same time to help a mission project, to help to help fund the medical aviation work, the Flying Doctor Service, and the school that we're doing, but even more importantly, to actually help someone else who's sick to come for treatment, because the lifestyle centre will be a special place. That's where we're anticipating, and so for people to be able to afford to come there, we need people to come from overseas to help offset the costs of those who will be coming
The
from
locals.
local people
The
who are getting
money.
diabetes, who are getting their legs chopped off because of eating the wrong foods. Those are the kind of things that we're trying to make this something that meets everybody's needs at the same time.
When it comes to mission, I see, you know, as we've discussed privately, that even though you may not have all the perfect answers for people, when they see you trying to help them,
That's it.
they will be drawn to you. God will then start giving you answers. But the thing is to go out and start to help people.
When you're involved in medical work, you know, the best, this is what everybody should be doing, is getting involved in other people's needs, physical needs, which is often going to lead into medical work. But when you're doing that, if you don't have all the answers, if you don't know how to do everything, at least show love, because love is what they actually see more than anything. Your
Love
intention,
is-
Everybody
That's why I
needs
asked
love.
just to love people and to do what you can is powerful.
That's right. That's the call of the heart. So that song I mentioned before,
Yeah.
that phrase,
Yeah.
those words mean a lot to me when I look at other people.
Yeah.
Just love me. That's all I ask. That's the basic human need.
Basic.
And when we go and help people who are in need, we're walking in Jesus' shoes.
Amen.
And Mark, we just love what you and your family are doing out at Vanuatu and the impact you're having on a greater area of people, not just where you are.
Praise God.
Hope you've enjoyed the program today. And may God bless you and show you what He wants you to do for Him. God bless.